Have you ever stopped and asked yourself a question that sounds simple, but gets stranger the longer you think about it? What if we aren't the first intelligent civilization in the universe? Think about the numbers for a second. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old. That's almost impossible to picture. Now, compare that to us. Human civilization, the kind that builds cities, invents computers, and sends spacecraft into space has only been around for the tiniest fraction of that time. If you squeeze the entire history of the universe into one calendar year, everything we've accomplished would happen in just the final seconds before midnight. That's a humbling thought. Long before humans made the first radio or looked through the first telescope, the universe had billions of years to do, well, anything. Stars were born. They burned out. They exploded. New planets formed over and over again. Some of those worlds may have had oceans, atmospheres, and the same basic ingredients that made life possible here on Earth. And here's where things get really interesting. Our galaxy alone contains hundreds of billions of stars. Beyond that, there are hundreds of billions of other galaxies. With numbers like that, is it really reasonable to believe Earth is the only place where intelligence ever appeared? Maybe. But it also feels like a pretty bold assumption.
We are witnessing.
What's even harder to ignore is that many stars out there are billions of years older than our sun day. If even one Earth-like planet formed just a billion years before ours, life there would have had a billion-year head start. A billion years. On Earth, that kind of time was enough for simple microbes to slowly evolve into creatures capable of asking questions like this one. So if another civilization started earlier, how far ahead could they be today? 1,000 years? 1,000,000? Even more? At that point, their technology might be so advanced that we wouldn't even recognize it as technology anymore. So, maybe the real question isn't whether intelligent life could exist elsewhere. Maybe the better question is, if the universe had such an enormous head start, how could we possibly be the first? To answer that question, we have to go all the way back to the beginning of the universe. A lot of people imagine that life could have started almost right after the Big Bang, but that's not how it worked. Back then, the universe was actually pretty simple. It was filled mostly with hydrogen and helium. That's it. The elements life depends on, like carbon, oxygen, iron, and silicon, didn't exist yet. No carbon meant no complex molecules. No oxygen meant no water. No iron or silicon meant no rocky planets like Earth. So even though the universe was already huge, it wasn't ready for life, not even close. Everything changed when the first generation of stars was born. These weren't ordinary stars like our sun day. They were much bigger, much hotter, and they burned through their fuel incredibly fast. Deep inside their cores, something amazing happened. They started creating the heavy elements that simply didn't exist before: carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron. The building blocks for planets, and eventually, for life. But those elements stayed locked inside the stars until the stars died. When those giant stars exploded, they scattered those materials across space. Think of it like planting seeds. Every explosion spread more of the ingredients needed to build new worlds. Then, the next generation of stars formed from that enriched material. Around them, tiny grains of dust slowly came together. Dust became rocks. Rocks became planets. And for the first time, rocky worlds with solid ground, oceans, and atmospheres became possible. That's a huge turning point. The universe didn't become ready for life overnight. It had to build the right ingredients first. And that process took hundreds of millions of years. Even then, it didn't happen everywhere at the same time. Some regions of the galaxy became rich in heavy elements much earlier than others. That means some rocky planets may have formed billions of years before Earth ever existed. Of course, having the right conditions doesn't automatically create intelligent life. A planet can stay alive with simple organisms for billions of years and never produce a civilization. But without rocky planets, liquid water, and the right chemistry, life doesn't even get a chance to begin. So maybe the biggest takeaway is this: the universe wasn't born ready for life. It had to grow into it. And if some parts of the universe reached that point long before Earth did, then maybe somewhere out there, life also got a much earlier start than we ever did. So here's where things start getting really interesting. If planets like Earth could form earlier than ours, then some of them may have had an incredible head start. Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. That sounds ancient. But in a universe that's nearly 13.8 billion years old, Earth actually showed up pretty late. Astronomers have already found planetary systems that are much older than ours. One well-known example is the Kepler 444 system. It formed when the universe was only about a third of its current age. Its planets probably aren't good places for life as we know it, but that's not the point. The important part is this: rocky planets existed billions of years before Earth did. That changes the conversation, because if rocky planets were already forming that early, then somewhere out there, another world might have had liquid water, a stable climate, and enough time for life to begin long before our planet even existed. Now imagine one of those worlds got a head start of 1 billion years. That's hard to wrap your mind around. On Earth, life spent billions of years, slowly evolving from tiny, single-celled organisms into intelligent beings capable of building cities, writing books, and exploring space. So what happens if another civilization started that journey much earlier? Even a 1 million year advantage would completely change the picture. Think about us for a second. 1 million years ago, our distant ancestors weren't building anything. They weren't farming. They hadn't invented language, writing, or science. They didn't even know other planets existed. Now jump back to today. In just a few hundred years, we've gone from steam engines to satellites, from handwritten letters to artificial intelligence, and from looking at the moon to landing machines on Mars. That's only a tiny slice of human history. So, what could another civilization accomplish with 1 million extra years? Honestly, we probably can't even imagine it. Their technology might look less like machines and more like part of nature itself. They may have solved problems we haven't even discovered yet, or they may have spread far beyond their own solar system while we were still learning how to make fire. And that's what makes this idea so fascinating. The biggest difference between us and another civilization might not be intelligence. It might simply be time. If another Earth had the right conditions billions of years before ours, then there's a real chance someone else started this journey long before humanity ever looked up at the stars. And if that's true, we're probably not comparing ourselves to equals. We're comparing ourselves to a civilization that's had millions or even billions of years to keep moving forward. Now, let's push this idea even further. What if another civilization didn't just appear before us? What if they were 1 million years ahead? That number sounds huge, but think about how fast we've changed. Just a few hundred years ago, we didn't have electricity. Airplanes didn't exist. Computers were science fiction. Today, we send robots to other planets and let AI help us solve problems that would have taken people months. That's only a few centuries. So imagine another civilization with 1 million extra years to keep improving. At that point, they probably wouldn't be limited to a single planet anymore. Their home world might just be where their story began. They could already be living across their entire solar system, building massive habitats in space, mining asteroids, and using nearly all the energy from their own star. This is where scientists sometimes talk about something called a Dyson sphere. Not necessarily a giant solid shell around a star like science fiction often shows, but a huge network of structures collecting a star's energy. If your civilization keeps growing, sooner or later you need more power. Your planet won't be enough forever. But that's only the beginning. Now imagine giving that same civilization 1 billion years instead of 1 million. Honestly, it's hard to even think about. Would they still look like biological creatures? Maybe not. They might have replaced fragile bodies with machines built to survive anywhere in space. Their minds could exist as digital consciousness instead of living inside a single body. Instead of one person living in one place, they could spread their thoughts across countless computers on different worlds. Even the idea of life and death might mean something completely different to them. Artificial intelligence could also stop being just a tool. It could become the civilization itself. Their descendants might not be biological at all. They could be fully digital, constantly upgrading themselves, thinking millions of times faster than we do, and making decisions on timescales we can't even imagine. If they kept expanding, they might slowly move from one star system to another. Not overnight, not faster than light. Just patiently, over millions of years. Given enough time, they could spread across an entire galaxy. And here's the part that really sticks with me. If a civilization had 1 billion years to grow, build, and explore, You would expect to see something: massive engineering projects, stars being used in unusual ways, clear signs that someone had been there before us. But when we look out into the universe, we don't see any confirmed evidence of that. No verified Dyson spheres, no unmistakable artificial structures, no undeniable proof of a civilization that old. So we're left with a strange possibility. Maybe no one ever made it that far. Or maybe they did. And they've become so advanced that we no longer recognize what we're looking at. But here's the question that always brings us back to reality. If another civilization really had millions or even billions of years to get ahead, why don't we see them? It's one of the biggest mysteries in science. The universe is enormous. It's incredibly old. If intelligent life isn't unique to Earth, then somewhere, someone should have had enough time to spread across the galaxy. Yet when we look up, nothing. No confirmed signals, no giant alien structures, no clear evidence that anyone has ever been here. So what happened? One idea is something scientists call the Great Filter. The name sounds dramatic, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Maybe every civilization eventually reaches a point where surviving becomes much harder than evolving. Getting intelligent might not be the hardest part. Staying alive could be. Think about us. As our technology gets more powerful, so do the risks we create for ourselves. Nuclear weapons, engineered diseases, artificial intelligence. Every breakthrough solves one problem but can also create another. It's possible that every advanced civilization eventually builds something it can no longer fully control. And if that happens, their own technology could become the reason they disappear. War is another possibility. A civilization doesn't have to lose a battle against aliens. It might destroy itself through conflict long before it ever reaches another star. Then there are natural disasters. An asteroid impact, a supervolcano, a nearby supernova, a powerful gamma-ray burst. Some events are so destructive that even a highly advanced society might struggle to survive them. The more I think about it, the more one idea keeps coming back. Maybe intelligence isn't the final achievement. Maybe it's just the beginning of the hardest test. Every civilization might eventually face a moment when its power grows faster than its wisdom. Some learn to handle it, others don't. And if most civilizations fail that test, it would explain why the universe feels so quiet. Not because life is impossible, but because long-lasting civilizations are incredibly rare. There's another possibility too. Maybe the ones that survive stop drawing attention to themselves. Instead of broadcasting powerful signals across space, they stay quiet. They avoid unnecessary risks. From our point of view, they'd be almost invisible. Either way, the result looks exactly the same. We search the sky, and we hear silence. Maybe that silence means no one made it. Or maybe it means the civilizations that did survive learned something we haven't learned yet. Sometimes, the smartest way to stay alive is not to be noticed at all. Now let's assume something completely different. What if another civilization really did exist, but it's already gone? If that's true, then maybe we're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, where are they? Maybe we should be asking, what would they leave behind? The problem is, time erases almost everything. Just look at Earth. Leave a city alone for a few thousand years, and nature starts taking it back. Buildings collapse, metal rusts, roads disappear under forests. Give it 1,000,000 years, and shifting continents, earthquakes, and erosion can wipe away almost every obvious sign that anyone was ever there. So, if an advanced civilization disappeared hundreds of millions of years ago, its home planet might look completely natural today. That makes finding ancient civilizations much harder than it sounds. But space is different. Out there, there's no rain, no wind, no oceans slowly wearing things away, a dead satellite, an abandoned space station. A machine sitting on the surface of an airless moon, those could survive for millions of years. That's why some scientists think places like the moon, asteroids, or other stable objects in our solar system could actually preserve evidence much better than Earth can. If anyone ever visited our neighborhood long ago, those places might still hold clues. So far, though, we've found nothing that can honestly be called proof. Another idea is that maybe we shouldn't be looking for abandoned buildings at all. Maybe we should look for technological fingerprints instead. Every machine that uses energy also creates waste heat. It doesn't matter how advanced the technology becomes. Physics doesn't simply stop working. That's why astronomers sometimes search for unusual infrared radiation coming from distant stars or even entire galaxies. If a civilization were collecting enormous amounts of energy, it might give off more heat than we'd normally expect. People have also wondered whether massive artificial structures around stars could slightly change the way those stars look from Earth. It's an interesting idea, but here's the important part. None of those observations have become solid evidence. We've seen objects that raised questions. We've seen unusual signals. We've seen stars that behaved in unexpected ways. But every time scientists looked closer, there simply wasn't enough evidence to say this was definitely built by another civilization. And that's exactly how science should work. Extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. Still, I can't help thinking about one possibility. If a civilization disappeared a billion years ago, maybe time erased almost everything it ever built. Maybe its greatest achievements now look like ordinary rocks. Maybe its satellites became space debris long before humans existed. Or maybe we're surrounded by traces of something ancient. We just don't know how to recognize them yet. So after looking at all these possibilities, we end up facing one question that just won't go away. If the universe should be full of civilizations, where is everybody? That question is so famous it has a name. It's called the Fermi paradox. The idea is surprisingly simple. The universe is incredibly old. There are hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy alone, and we've discovered that planets are everywhere. So statistically, intelligent life shouldn't be a one-time event. If even one civilization appeared millions of years before us and kept expanding little by little, it could have spread across the galaxy long before humans even existed. So why don't we see any evidence? That's where the theories begin. The first possibility is the simplest. Maybe life itself is incredibly rare. A planet might have water, the right temperature, and all the right chemicals, but that still doesn't mean life will ever begin. Maybe the jump from chemistry to biology is far harder than we realize. Or maybe simple life is common, but intelligent life is the real miracle. Here on Earth, life appeared very early, but for billions of years, it stayed simple. Countless species lived and disappeared without ever building technology. Maybe intelligence isn't the natural destination of evolution. Maybe we're the exception. Another possibility has nothing to do with life at all. Maybe other civilizations are out there. We're just too early or too late to hear them. Space is unbelievably big. A radio signal traveling at the speed of light still takes thousands, sometimes millions, of years to cross the galaxy. A civilization could have sent a message long before humans existed. It would have passed right by Earth with nobody here to receive it. Or another civilization might be broadcasting right now, but their signal won't reach us until thousands of years from now. We may simply be listening at the wrong moment. Then, there's another idea I find really interesting. Maybe advanced civilizations choose to stay quiet. Think about it. If you don't know who's out there, broadcasting your exact location might not be the smartest decision. Maybe the oldest civilizations learned that staying silent is safer than announcing themselves to the galaxy. Instead of shouting into space, they watch, they observe, and they avoid being noticed. If that's true, the silence we're hearing isn't empty at all. It's intentional. And then there's one final possibility that changes everything. Maybe the universe has only recently become old enough for intelligent civilizations to appear. If that's true, humanity might not be late. We might be among the very first. Somewhere, thousands of light years away, another civilization could be asking this exact same question tonight, wondering if they're alone, wondering why nobody answers, without realizing that we're asking the very same thing. Maybe the silence doesn't mean the universe is empty. Maybe it simply means every civilization has just started listening, and no one has had enough time to hear anyone else yet. Now let's flip the whole idea upside down. What if we've been asking the wrong question all along? Instead of wondering why we haven't found another civilization, what if there simply wasn't one to find? It sounds unbelievable at first. After all, the universe is almost 14 billion years old. But being old doesn't automatically mean intelligent life had billions of years to get started. The early universe wasn't ready. It took time for stars to create the heavy elements needed for rocky planets. Then those planets needed time to cool down. After that, life had to begin. And even once life appeared, intelligence didn't show up overnight. Just look at Earth. Life started surprisingly early, but for almost 4 billion years, nothing built cities, invented tools, or wondered what was beyond the sky. For most of our planet's history, Earth belonged to simple organisms. Human civilization is incredibly recent. That makes me wonder, what if this timeline isn't unusual? What if it actually takes billions of years for life to reach the point where it starts asking questions about the universe? If that's true, then many planets older than Earth might not be far ahead of us at all. They could be reaching this stage right now. Some might have just invented radio. Others might still be discovering electricity. Some may not even have intelligent life yet. Maybe the universe isn't an ancient city filled with civilizations. Maybe it's more like a neighborhood that's only beginning to wake up. That would explain the silence without needing mysterious aliens or hidden empires. There simply hasn't been enough time for civilizations to meet each other. Think about it. A civilization 10,000 light-years away could be asking the exact same questions we are today. They might be staring at their own night sky, wondering if anyone else exists. At this very moment, both of us could be listening, and neither side knows the other is there. Even if they sent a message today, we wouldn't hear it for another 10,000 years. That's longer than all of recorded human history. So maybe we're not late. Maybe we're among the first generation of civilizations to appear in this part of the universe. And if that's true, something else becomes clear. There isn't an older civilization waiting to teach us. No ancient library filled with answers. No wiser species warning us about the mistakes we're about to make. Everything we discover, we'll have to discover ourselves. Every dangerous technology, every difficult choice, every lesson about survival, we'll be learning them for the very first time. That's both exciting and honestly a little terrifying. Because if humanity really is one of the first civilizations to reach this point, then the future isn't already written by someone else. We're helping write the very first chapter ourselves. But there's one last possibility, and honestly, I think it's the most haunting one of all. What if we aren't early? What if we're actually far too late? Imagine a civilization that appeared 1 billion years before humanity. Not 1,000 years. Not 1,000,000. 1 billion. They could have risen, explored their solar system, spread across the galaxy, and disappeared, all before Earth even had complex life. By the time the first animals crawled onto land here, their entire history might have already been ancient. That's hard to picture. But time in the universe works on a scale that's almost impossible for us to understand. Now think about what happens after a civilization disappears. On Earth, abandoned cities don't last forever. Nature slowly takes everything back. Give it enough time. And mountains move, continents shift, oceans rise and fall. After hundreds of millions of years, almost every trace of a civilization could be erased. The same idea might apply on other planets. Their cities could be gone, their roads buried, their machines reduced to dust. Even if they once built incredible things, time may have quietly erased almost all of it. What about the technology they left in space? That doesn't last forever either. Satellites can collide. Radiation slowly damages electronics. Asteroids strike. Materials break down. After 1 billion years, even the most advanced spacecraft might become nothing more than unrecognizable debris drifting through space. And maybe that's why the universe feels empty. Not because nobody was ever there, but because we're looking long after the story ended. Sometimes I wonder if we're making a simple mistake. We tend to think that if an advanced civilization existed, we should still be able to see it today. But why? We don't expect to find perfectly preserved cities from Earth's distant past after hundreds of millions of years. So why would we expect that from another world? Maybe we're searching for fresh footprints, when what remains are only microscopic traces buried beneath billions of years of history. Science is careful for a good reason. It can't call something alien technology just because it looks strange. Every unusual object has to be tested against natural explanations first. And so far, none of the evidence has reached that level. But that doesn't automatically prove nobody came before us. It may simply mean the evidence has become too old or too subtle for us to recognize. That's the part I can't stop thinking about. Maybe civilizations have appeared over and over again across the history of the galaxy, each one rising, growing, then fading away. never meeting the next one because they were separated, not by distance, but by time. If that's true, then the silence we hear today isn't the silence of an empty universe. It's the silence of a place where countless stories may have already ended. And now, humanity might be the newest voice trying to begin the next one. So after everything we've talked about, we're right back where we started. Are we the first intelligent civilization in the universe? The honest answer is, we simply don't know. Maybe humanity arrived at exactly the right moment, when the universe had finally become old enough for intelligent life to appear. Maybe other civilizations are out there right now, asking the same questions, but they're so far away that we'll never hear each other in our lifetimes. Or maybe we're the ones who showed up late. Maybe countless civilizations lived incredible lives, reached heights we can't even imagine, and disappeared so long ago that time erased almost every trace they left behind. The truth is, all three ideas could fit the same silent sky we see every night. And that's what makes this question so fascinating. We've only been listening to the universe for a tiny moment compared to its age. In cosmic terms, it's like walking into a huge theater, looking around for 1 second, and deciding nobody else has ever been there. Maybe that's true. Or maybe we just haven't waited long enough. One thing does seem clear, though. Whether we're the first, the last, or simply one civilization among many, humanity is still incredibly young. The choices we make over the next few centuries may decide whether we become another short-lived story, or one that lasts long enough for someone else to discover one day. And honestly, I think that's the part that matters most. Not whether we're alone, but whether we can survive long enough to find out. Now, I'd love to hear what you think. Do you believe humanity is the first intelligent civilization? Do you think we arrived too late? Or do you think someone else is already out there and we just haven't heard them yet? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to see how you see